Would you please welcome Ocean Vuong?
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. Can you hear me okay? Is this good volume? What a pleasure to be in this community and to see so many people care and pay attention and support the written word and the spoken word as well. And also to my featured poets and to the youth poets. You give me hope for the future, and I thank you for that. I bow to you. It makes me very happy to see a community here of people getting together, sharing each other's stories. Like I said earlier in the workshop, I do think that language is the DNA of our personhood. We possess a very idiosyncratic fingernail, a fingerprint, but we also possess a very idiosyncratic self. And how do we articulate that self? And I think it's in language, and perhaps the poem is our mind, our person putting that fingernail down, that fingerprint down. And so I'm very thankful to have the technology of the poem to get to know my fellow human beings and vice versa. I like to start my readings with this poem. I appreciate Aracelis' poem greatly because my mother is also illiterate and she doesn't speak English and she doesn't read or write in any language. The war in Vietnam interrupted her education. But I like to read this poem because it's in her voice, and I always imagine what she would say if she could write a poem. And it begins with an epigram in Vietnamese. Không có gì bằng cơm với cá, không có gì bằng má với con. Head first. Don't you know? A mother's love neglects pride, the way fire neglects the cries of what it burns. My son, even tomorrow, you will have today. Don't you know? There are men who touch breasts as they would the tops of skulls. Men who carry dreams over mountains, the dead on their backs. But only a mother can walk with the weight of a second beating heart. Stupid boy, you can get lost in every book, but you'll never forget yourself the way God forgets his hands. When they ask you where you're from, tell them your name was fleshed from the toothless mouth of a war woman, that you were not born, but crawled head first into the hunger of dogs. My son, tell them the body is a blade that sharpens by cutting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, my mother, she worked in nail salons, and she still does, like most Vietnamese women and men. And I remember her coming home from work and telling me and teaching me how to write my ABCs. And she doesn't know beyond ABC, and yet she understood the power of language and writing. And despite not knowing the alphabet, she made me write it down anyways. The gift. A, B, C. A, B, C. She doesn't know what comes after. So we begin again. A, B, C. A, B, C. But I can see the fourth letter. A strand of black hair unraveled from the alphabet and written on her cheek. Even now, the nail salon will not leave her. I see propyl acetate, ethyl acetate, chloride, sodium lauryl sulfate, and sweat fuming through her pink I Love New York t-shirt. A, B, C. A, B, C. A. The pencil snaps. The bee bursting its belly as dark dust blows through a blue-lined sky. Don't move, she says, as she picks a wing bone of graphite from the yellow carcass, slides it back between my fingers. Again, she says, and again I see it, the strand of hair lifting from her face, how it fell onto the page and lived with no sound, like a word. I still hear it. Thank you. A lot of this book navigates the idea of fatherhood or a father figure. And I adopt a lot of mythology to navigate these spaces, particularly Greek mythology. And this poem is titled Telemachus, which, as some of you might know, is the son of Odysseus. Telemachus. Like any good son, I pull my father out of the water, drag him by his hair through white sand, his knuckles carving a trail the waves rush in to erase. Because the city beyond the shore is no longer where we left it. Because the bombed cathedral is now a cathedral of trees. I kneel beside him to see how far I might sink. Do you know who I am, Ba? But the answer never comes. The answer is the bullet hole in his back, brimming with seawater. He is so still, I think he could be anyone's father, found the way a green bottle might appear at a boy's feet, containing a year he has never touched. I touch his ears. No use. I turn him over to face it. The cathedral in his sea-black eyes. The face, not mine, but one I will wear to kiss all my lovers goodnight. The way I seal my father's lips with my own and begin this faithful work of drowning. Thank you. Thank you. Two more poems. Several years ago in 2011, on April 27th, a gay couple, Michael Humphrey and Clayton Capshaw, was murdered by immolation in Dallas, Texas, as a hate crime, and they were burned alive in their own home. And the title of this poem comes from Dante's Inferno, where in the seventh circle of hell, the homosexuals and sodomites were punished by a rain of fire. This is titled Seventh Circle of Earth, and is written in the voice of one of the lovers to his beloved as their house is burning. As if my finger tracing your collarbone behind closed doors was enough to erase myself, to forget we built this house knowing it won't last. How does anyone stop regret without cutting off his hands? Another torch streams through the kitchen window. Another errant dove. It's funny. I always knew I'd be warmest beside my man. But don't laugh. Understand me when I say I burn best when crowned with your scent. That earth sweat and old spice I seek out each night the days refuse me. Our faces blackening in the photographs along the wall. Don't laugh. Just tell me the story again of the sparrows who flew from falling Rome. Their blazed wings, how ruin nested inside each thimbled throat and made it sing until the notes threaded to this smoke rising from your nostrils. Speak until your voice is nothing but the crackle of charred bones. But don't laugh when these walls collapse and only sparks, not sparrows, fly out. When they come to sift through these cinders and pluck my tongue, this fisted rose, charcoaled and choked from your gone mouth. Each black petal blasted with what's left of our laughter. Laughter ashed to air, to honey, to baby, darling. Look, look how happy we are to be no one and still American. Thank you. Thank you so much again for having me and for having us, letting us articulate our DNA to you. This poem is Epigraph from Emily Dickinson, and it's a poem to my future son. The stars are not hereditary. Emily Dickinson. To my future son. There was a door, and then a door, surrounded by a forest. Look, my eyes are not your eyes. You move through me like rain heard from another country. Yes, you have a country. Someday they will find it while searching for lost ships. Once I fell in love during a slow motion car crash. We looked so peaceful, the cigarette floating from his lips as our heads whiplashed back into the dream, and all was forgiven. Because what you heard or will hear is true. I wrote a better hour onto the page and watched the fire take it back. Something was always burning. Do you understand? I closed my mouth but could still taste the ash because my eyes were open. From men, I learned to praise the thickness of walls. From women, I learned to praise. If you are given my body, put it down. If you are given anything, be sure to leave no tracks in the snow. Know that I never chose which way the seasons turned, that it was always October in my throat, and you, every leaf refusing to rust. Quick. Can you see the red dark shifting? This means I am touching you. This means you are not alone, even as you are not. If you get there before me, if you think of nothing and my face appears rippling like a torn flag, turn back. Turn back and find the book I left for us, filled with all the colors of the sky, forgotten by gravediggers. Use it. Use it to prove how the stars were always what we knew they were. The exit wounds of every misfired word. Thank you.